Welcome to the Fairfax Sports Report. I'm BJ Kubarulis of the Connection Newspapers alongside of Paul Frummelt and John Marcario of the Connection Newspapers, bringing you all the action from this last week of Northern Region sports here on the Fairfax Sports Report. But before we get to all the action, let's thank the folks that make this show possible. And of course, we're talking about our wonderful underwriters in CCI Screen Printing. For all your screen printing needs at 703-978-0257. Quality Care Ford Service Center, servicing all makes and models at 703-383-6299. Triple Edge Lacrosse, one of our new teammates at www.tripleedgelax.com. Well, guys, it's been a crazy week. They're all in spring break now. Everybody's kind of scattered around the country, California, South Carolina, Florida. But we are here in studio in Merrifield talking about where everybody else is, and we're going to bring everybody home all together here in this report to tell you how all of our local teams are doing. And we're going to start with the Liberty District of Baseball. We're going to jump right into those district standings and tell you exactly where everybody is sitting in their district standings in the Liberty District. And Madison right up at the top, as to be expected, with a 4-0 district record. They're 7-0 overall. That is the best record right now in the Northern Region. They are one of only several undefeated teams. Langley not far behind at 6-0 overall. They're in California, and we're going to get a chance to talk to Coach Jeff Farrell in just a minute of the Saxons, calling in from California. We'll have a special report with Coach Jeff Farrell. They are also 4-0 in that Liberty District. Jefferson at 3-3 in the district and 5-3 overall. McLean at 5-2 overall. An interesting start for the Highlanders at 2-2 in the Liberty District. And Sam Plank Stonebridge Bulldogs at 2-2 in the district and 5-3 overall. Marshall, Woodson, and South Lakes all at 1-3 in that Liberty District, an up-and-coming and growing district in baseball. The top half is always good in the Liberty District, Madison, Langley, Jefferson, and so forth. We're going to get Coach Jeff Farrell on the phone with us in just about a minute, guys. But looking at those district standings in the early goings, any surprises so far, Paul?
No, I don't really see any surprises right now. Stonebridge, I believe, should be having a better record right now. The 5-3 overall, but only 2-2 in the district. But as you know, the Liberty District is one of the hardest districts in the Northern Region. One thing you got to point out when we get Coach Jeff Farrell on the phone is how Langley's 4-0 in the district. Madison's getting all the attention. Madison has the spotlight, but Langley is keeping up with them, and they could be, I guess, a sleeper in this district.
They'll be meeting soon after the spring break, if you will, on the 17th of April. Madison and Langley will be taking on in a good Liberty District action. John, any teams surprising you thus far in that Liberty District?
Going into the district play, Thomas Jefferson was supposed to be a kind of sleeper. It's not surprising to see them sitting at third, 3-3 in district play, 5-3 overall. Look out for them to give Madison and Langley some fits as the season goes on.
And, you know, guys, when you think about what Madison was able to do coming into this season so far, they're a team that you look at and they're ranked nationally coming in, and they've really answered the bell, John, and I think there's something to be said for that.
That's good. When you have a lot of pressure coming into the season, it's kind of tough to start out really on a good foot. When you start out 7-0, 4-0 in district play, that shows you mean business, you're here to stay, you're not a fluke, and just to let the rest of the Northern Region know, hey, we're here to play ball all season long.
We're going to be getting Coach Jeff Farrell on the phone in just about a minute to come up with us and talk a little bit Langley baseball. While we wait to get Coach Farrell on the phone, we want to go to a graphic that we've got of his squad. There are several top performers for these Saxons. These guys have really performed very well in the early goings of the season, talking about Tommy Tice, Foster Dunnigan, Brian Wills, Daniel Bergameska, Chaz Ayub, and looking at some of those top performers and their batting averages, guys, they've got a couple of guys batting over 400, and Tommy Tice right there at 588 batting average. Foster Dunnigan not far behind with a 533 batting average. A 400 batting average for Brian Wills. Daniel Bergameska at hitting 353. And you look at the pitching, 16 strikeouts for Chaz Ayub and a 1.50 ERA. And you look at Daniel Hochberg, and he's got a 0.0 ERA and 20 strikeouts. These numbers have improved, though, as they are improving to 6-0. They are in California right now, and on the phone with me right now is Coach Jeff Farrell. Coach, how you doing out there in sunny California?
Pretty good, man. How are you?
Pretty good. Thanks for joining us here on the Fairfax Sports Report. Jeff, we were just dropping a little knowledge on the folks at home. Coach, in his 7th year at Langley, you guys are off to a hot 6-0 start. You've got a great pitching staff with a team ERA of 1.89. You guys have scored 38 runs and allowed only 13. What is your signature win of the season, though, thus far?
Well, I don't know if we really have a signature win. We've come back in quite a few of the games that we've played. Our opener against McLean, we came back and scored 2 in the bottom of the 7th to tie it, and then we were able to get a run in the 8th. I think it was 8th or 9th to win it. But out here in California, we did the same thing 2 days ago. We got behind going into the top of the top of the 7th. I'm sorry, and our leadoff man hits a home run to tie the game, and we all of a sudden score 3 more runs to go up. Today, we were down 8-2 going into the bottom of the 7th, and we scored 4. A little short, but we've had some real good outings from our pitchers, and we're really pleased with where we're at right now. Never want to have a loss like we did today, but we're 7-1, and we're pleased with where we're at, and kids are really playing hard.
And the Saxons, as you have mentioned, Coach, now at 7-1, first loss of the season. But you guys have a good pitching staff. Chaz Ayub as your ace. This guy is a guy that hasn't got a chance to get a lot of exposure in the fall because he does play football, so he doesn't get out there and do some of the other things that these other guys around the region do for their increasing their notoriety in the baseball scene. He's a guy, though, that's really making a name for himself in the northern region. Tell me a little bit about Chaz's value to the squad.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, in the fall, he did play football. I mean, he's a very competitive man, and we like our kids to play more than one sport. And he did do some showcase stuff in the fall, but when you do that, play 2 sports at one time, it's kind of difficult. He did well, but he didn't have the velocity in the fall that he's got now in the spring, which has been I don't want to say a surprise, because I thought he had a pretty high ceiling in terms of. He's a big kid, and I knew it was in there, but our opening game against McLean, he hit 90 a couple times, and that's whenever he takes the mound, we know we're going to get 7 innings, and the kid is going to compete.
Now, Coach, looking at the Liberty District, obviously you have Madison right up with there at the top of the district with you guys. Seems like Madison's getting a lot of the attention this year from the press outlets and whatnot, nationally ranked. You guys are sticking right with them. And you think with Madison having that spotlight, does that work to your advantage, kind of as a sleeper?
Well, I tell you, Mark has done an outstanding job with the kids at Madison. They're very competitive. He's got 3-4 pitchers that are outstanding. Maneri and Sams can swing it, and they're pretty good. And we're just happy to be where we're at, and they're the favorite. He's good. He's done a great job with that program, and we're just hoping that we get to play them. It's going to be competitive, and we're going to give it the best we can.
Coach, what is the one X factor that's going to have to happen for the remainder of the season for you to continue a start like you've had at 7-1?
Well, I think we're going to have to continue to our team chemistry is going to have to continue with it being as strong as it is. We've got 21 kids that we're all holding on to that same rope, and we're going to have to continue that. Our pitchers are going to, that's a cliche. Pitchers are going to have to throw strikes. You got to play defense. You're going to have to hit the ball. But I just think we're going to have to continue that team chemistry. That's our biggest asset. And whenever somebody gets a chance to get out there, we expect them to go out there and perform.
Coach, I talked to you in the preseason a little bit about what you guys were able to do last year, going out in the tournament and the postseason. You guys really kind of caught some fire late. You feel like you've bottled that up and brought that into the start of this season?
Oh, I think we have. I mean, we feel the coaching staff that team chemistry is more important than anything. A bunch of blue-collar kids working hard is going to be more of an asset than 1 or 2 outstanding kids and a couple other ones just kind of trailing along. Like I said, we've got 21 kids, and obviously that's a big number. Not everybody gets to play, but they're all there supporting the kids who are, and when their opportunity does come, they contribute as well.
Coach, want to thank you for joining us here on the Fairfax Sports Report. Don't hit too many golf balls out there in California, but do have a good time, Coach. We'll be talking to you soon.
I tell you, man, the weather's great. Take care. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, guys. So right there, Langley right now, 7-1 start. They've got a couple more games in since we've crunched our numbers out there in California. The team ERA, the pitching staff has been phenomenal. Chaz Ayub, as we mentioned, the ace of the squad, Daniel Hochberg, 20 Ks and a 0.00 ERA. Let's see if we can throw those stats back up for the folks at home just one more time to let them know exactly who the hot hitters are and who the notable numbers are from Langley. That's a picture of Chaz Ayub right there. He is the ace, and you see him with 16 Ks, 1.50 ERA, and that is a team ERA of the pitching staff of 1.89. They are now 7-1, but Tommy Tice with a really hot bat. This is the guy that's going to play both football and baseball at the Division III level of college.
You can see one thing to notice is team run allowed. They've only allowed 13 runs in the first 6 games while scoring 38. That's an average that's going to give you some success.
Absolutely. And speaking of success, guys, we're going to jump right into Madison. We talked about them a little bit already with Coach Jeff Farrell, and these are two teams, when they meet, they always play each other tight. It's going to be an interesting matchup. Madison right now at the Orlando Classic, they've got a 2-0 record there. Of course, they are staying undefeated. They have the best record in the region as a number 9 preseason ranking. Usually will tell you, you will be undefeated through the regular season. They've already righted the wrongs from last year. They beat Oakton 7-5, and since then they've beaten TJ, South Lakes, and 2 teams in Orlando, one of those being Centerville. Coach Morgan Spencer sticking with Pudge, taking his team, a former Madison coach, taking his team out to Orlando as well. Madison, though, holding nothing back against their former JV coach. They defeated Centerville 16-0 in Orlando. They have since defeating Oakton 7-5. That's the closest game they've had this year. They've scored 47 runs and allowed only 7. They lead the region in run output with 73 runs. And one of the questions surrounding Madison, everybody knew about their pitching. Not a lot of people thought they could hit the ball.
Well, obviously you're seeing that they can hit the ball, and it's a great sign. 16-0 against Centerville. They're really coming together, and it shows that all that preseason hype might have been right.
Well, Paul, speaking of preseason hype, Stonebridge is a team that everybody thought was young. Sam Plank, though, does a heck of a job out there in Loudon. What can we expect from the Bulldogs in the later half of the season?
Well, right before spring break, had a disappointing loss to McLean, losing 6-4. Since then, they entered a spring break tournament where they've gone 2-0, beating St. Peter's of New York 12-2, beating Stars Mill of Georgia 6-5, and in the first game they lost to Roswell, Georgia 12-3. So definitely a good. Coaches like to use the spring break tournaments, say if they're playing out of state, they're playing teams they've never played before, they like to use them as a momentum builder to get back in that district schedule. And a 2-1 record so far in that district tournament is going to build some momentum going back into Liberty District play.
And all of our teams, as we mentioned in the early goings of this broadcast, everybody's kind of spread out now, guys, during spring break. McLean is also spread out. McLean, the Highlanders, are in South Carolina enjoying some nice weather of their own and really enjoying it with a 2-0 record on their road trip. They've won 4 in a row, including a 5-4 win over Stonebridge, and they followed that up with a 5-1 win over Thomas Jefferson. South Lakes struggling a little bit, but you got to look at their schedule. They're 1-3 right now to start the Liberty District's play, but they've played Langley and Madison. So those are 2 losses that I think a lot of people might have expected out of South Lakes, though that's a team a lot of people are talking about, and I really think they've got a pitching staff. They've got a lefty, they've got a guy that's going to GW, he's tall, and he can really deliver with some velocity in Tommy Gately. So they've got some guys over there in South Lakes that I think could they might shake up the top half of the Liberty District. Let's jump into another district, though, John. This is the district that you know and love, the Patriot District. Let's show the folks at home exactly who sits where currently in the Patriot District standings.
The old Patriot District. Sitting at the top is West Springfield. They are 3-0 in district play, 3-1 overall. They had a nice win against Lake Braddock last week. I will talk about that in a little bit. Hayfield, a little bit surprised up there, also 3-0 in district play, 4-2 overall. South County, the Stallions, are 2-1 in district play, also 2-1 overall. There you see Lake Braddock, 2-1 in district play with that loss to West Springfield. They are also 4-1 overall. TC Williams, 2-1 in district play, 2-2 overall, but they were hammered by Lake Braddock last week. Annandale, you see there, are 1-3 in district play and 1-4 overall. Lee struggling mightily so far this year, 0-3 in district play, 0-5 overall. And West Potomac there, 0-5 in district play and 2-7 overall.
And John, Lake Braddock is a team that we've discussed quite a bit. They've kind of jumped around in our rankings, and if you stick with us here on the Fairfax Sports Report, we're going to give you our Northern Region Coaches Poll when we conclude our baseball segment, show you just who's where in our top 10. But John, Lake Braddock, they're a team that's jumped around that top 10. They started in the preseason ranked number 1. They dropped a little bit. Where do you see them ending up at the end of the season, and what are they going to have to do to get there?
Lake Braddock, it's kind of interesting. Of their games, they've scored double digits in every single game, aside from that West Springfield game. They're currently in South Carolina right now. They won both their games, 17-5 and 11-5, just truly out-hitting people. But against West Springfield, they were shut out 2-0. That was the first time they've been shut out this year, the second time they've been shut out in the last 2 years, and only the 6th time this decade they have been shut out. That does not happen at Lake Braddock at all. They're hitting the ball, not a problem. They're getting double-digit hits in every single game. It's just that one goose egg. West Springfield, very good team, so possibly look out for them. But Lake Braddock, they should be okay because every now and again you have a little hiccup in the road. If it's against West Springfield, it's okay.
And those Patriot District rivalries always seem to produce some of those games, some of those enigma games. But West Springfield is a team, though, now that you've got to give the respect to. And I don't think that our coaches poll that we'll see in just a minute gives West Springfield and those Spartans the respect that they deserve after knocking off Lake Braddock. John, West Springfield, was it an enigma win or is it a real legit victory?
It's a legit victory in the sense that I got a chance to catch the tail end of that when Lake Braddock had runners on first and second in both the 6th and 7th inning and did not get the clutch hit. West Springfield bared down and got the key outs. They are 3-1 so far this year, 3-0 overall. Anytime you get that nice glitzy win over a big team on their home field, you definitely have to watch out for the Spartans.
And Hayfield, John, is a team that we're not really sure what to do with. Every week they kind of surprise us. They've had a couple of wins this season. The Hawks, though, are they a legit contender for a Patriot District title in what seems to be, as we had Coach Jody Rutherford join us last week? He said, watch out for Hayfield.
Scott Broyles' team, they are 3-0 in district play, getting very efficient pitching. They have wins over South County, Annandale and West Potomac twice. They're currently in the Alexandria City Championship Tournament. That's where they just beat West Potomac. Hayfield's getting solid and consistent pitching. If they can continue that throughout the year, they should be definitely up near the top of the district standings.
And at the top of the district standings, as you mentioned, you got to see a team like South County. They've got a 2-1 overall record, and they're 2-1 in the Patriot District. They've got a phenomenal young pitcher, a lefty over there, and a tall young man, Mr. Graham. What can South County legitimately do in the district this year?
Well, Mark Luther's team, like everybody else, is at a tournament right now. It's just started a couple days ago. They so far won 1 and lost 1 in that tournament. At 3-2 overall, they should have good pitching. 4 of their 5 games this year, they've given up 2 runs or less. Anytime, I talked about last week, and I'll talk about it again, if you can continue getting solid pitching like that, you'll be fine. Their one loss that they had at their tournament that they're at right now is 9-8. That's the most runs they've given up all season long.
Lee seems to be a team, though, that is struggling. They are giving up a lot of runs. What's wrong with the Lancers, and what do they have to do to right the ship?
Well, head coach David Garzel's team, the biggest problem is the average score in their games is 10-3. Simply giving up too many runs. They lost 1 game this year, 20-1 so far. They're not scoring enough. If you're not getting the pitch in, not scoring the runs, it's going to be tough. But it's one of those catch-22 things where you're giving up so many runs. So you know what the problem is? You're giving up too many runs. But how do you fix the problem?
Well, John Marcario certainly has no problems covering that Patriot District. Tune in every week here on the Fairfax Sports Report to get all of your district's coverage. For every district, we do the Patriot, the National, the Liberty, and the Concord, and we're going to jump right into the Concord now with our Concord expert, Paul Frummelt. Tell us exactly who sits where in the charging hot Chargers of the Concord District.
Look at the Chargers, 2-0 in the district right now. They did have 1 loss at their spring break tournament recently, so they are 7-1 overall, just like Langley. Robinson right there with them at 2-1, 3-1 overall. Oakton there, 1-1 in the district, 4-3 overall. Same as Fairfax, 1-1 in the district, 4-3 overall. Westfield, a little bit of surprise there, 1-2 in the district, 1-2 overall. Centerville, Coach Morgan Spencer's team still has some building to do. They're 1-3 in the district, 2-4 overall. And then Herndon there, 0-1 in the district, 1-1 overall on our standings.
Well, last week, if you folks tuned in to this show on the Fairfax Sports Report, we did a graphic and we said, who is Patrick Summers? Well, right now, who are the Chantilly Chargers?
Give a
Patrick
broader
Summers
view, yeah.
is one of those guys who's playing well for Chantilly. Chantilly has really just had a dynamite year through and through in
Definitely.
every single
It's a great
sport.
start for the Chargers.
It's unbelievable what they've been able to do.
Look at here in the first 6 games. Now I want you to notice. You see Mount Vernon beating Mount Vernon 14-2, beating Edison 15-0. Look at that Westfield and Centerville game. That's what is important to the Chargers. Neighborhood rivalries. Beating Westfield 5-2 and beating Centerville 5-3. That is a huge momentum builder for the Chargers when they can beat their district neighborhood rivals. You see Lake High Prep there. They beat 9-5. That was the first game in their Orlando National Baseball Classic that they were at. Patrick Summers, as we mentioned, pitched 5 innings, gave up 6 hits, 2 earned runs, and struck out 3 at the Orlando National Baseball Classic first game. Max Langford came in relief, got the win, pitched 2 innings, allowed no earned runs, no hits, and struck out 4. So you're seeing those Chargers, you're seeing some great pitching. Also, you're seeing the confidence I mentioned against Westfield and Centerville. They built that confidence again against Lake High Prep. They were down 5-4 in the 7th inning. They had a 5-run rally with 3 singles and a double to jump out on top. Again, I mentioned they recently lost to Pasco High School 3-1, so now that was their first loss of the year.
All right, so they charged out actually to a 6-1 start. Our team's now starting to find a little bit of diversity across the nation as they are all spread out. Langley recording its first loss, Chantilly recording its first loss. But I think it's really interesting what the Chargers have been able to do this year as a school overall. They've really, their athletic programs, and we've talked about it so much here on this show, and we've had so many guests on with us from Chantilly, but it's just pretty phenomenal that they've been able to bottle up some sort of magic over there at Chantilly.
It was funny when I mentioned that to Coach Kevin Ford about how the football team has done well, the basketball team has done so well, and he laughed and said, "Coaches are telling me I better keep it up." And obviously he was joking there, but they really are. You see that it kind of mirrors the football season with Coach Mike Lally in his second year, kind of getting some traction with that football team. Coach Kevin Ford in his second year, getting his system in place and getting that traction.
If a lot of you remember this show a couple of years back, when they had a regime change, if you will, over at Chantilly, we weren't really sure which way that school was going to go. And I think it speaks volumes about Terry Brown, the athletic director, and what he's been able to do. He's hired coaches, now in his second year, hired a couple of coaches that have come in and really helped revive that school. Chantilly was always a power in this region. They fell off for a couple of years, and it's good to see the Chargers take that step back to the forefront after getting cut in half by the population of Westfield and that sort of thing. I'd like to take a moment here just to kind of, the Chargers fans that have always stuck with them. I think it's just a good story through and through to see that Chantilly's back in all facets of all their sports.
You know, I'm a big proponent of the Purple Platoon. I love them, love seeing them out at games, and there's a really great energy at Chantilly right now.
And there's a fantastic energy over at Oakton High School. They've won 5 straight, have those Cougars. And, I really think it comes down to pitching. Let me mention a couple of names on their pitching staff. Eric Cantrell, Bart Reese, and Brett Williams. Brett Williams, they would have called him crazy this year. A lefty he left Lake Braddock, a regional contender, to go to Oakton. He transferred into Oakton. He's doing quite well. He's been on the mound, and those are 3 strong pitchers. And you've got a guy like Kevin Wager who can also give you some time on the mound as well. So Oakton has relied on its pitching, but they can hit as well. So they've backed it up in both facets of the game. Keith Werman, Brandon Padula, Alfredo Rodriguez, and Connor Madden, all guys having stellar outings at the plate thus far for the Cougars. They will be a regional contender yet again. Westfield, Paul Frummel, what can we expect out of the Bulldogs? We don't really know which way to go with this team yet, do we?
We don't. Right now I have a brief mention on Westfield. They're playing in the Charleston, South Carolina tournament. What you need to see from Westfield for them to get that traction, they're playing Centerville on April 13th, an SYA night. Always a big rivalry there. Let me talk a brief moment about Centerville. They played Robinson recently. They scored 6 runs in the second inning to take a 6-0 lead on Robinson and pitcher A.J. Johnson. Now, Coach Morgan Spencer said he was very impressed with how those bats were working in that second inning. And anytime you put on 6 runs against a Concord District opponent, that's great. Unfortunately for Centerville, they gave up 2 runs in the 4th, 1 run in the 5th, 3 runs in the 6th, and a run in the 7th, and didn't score again. A.J. Johnson came back on strong, shut down the Wildcats, and they lost 7-6. A crippling blow for the Wildcats, who are trying to get that traction under first-year head coach Morgan Spencer.
And you can't ignore Robinson with a 3-1 overall record, John. 2-1 in the district. Paul got a chance to see them against Centerville. Robinson and Diana and those guys, I mean, what can you expect out of the Rams?
You can expect big things. If you can come back from 6-0 against Westfield, that shows big things. A.J. Johnson started out rocky. Coach said he wasn't really throwing very well, evidently showed in the first 2 innings. But when you can lock a team down after 5 innings, or for the next 5 innings, allowed 3 hits, 8 strikeouts, that gives your team a chance to win. And when you have bats such as Danny Diana, who had a 2-run homer,
And a
also sacrifice fly, 3 RBIs for him, that's key. The only thing that you can do in high school in any kind of baseball is if you get roughed up early, pitch well the rest of the game, because you never know what's going to happen.
What Johnson did tell me after the game is, and the coach told me, is he wasn't feeling it. In warming up, he wasn't feeling his pitches. And then after that 6-run inning, he said he needed to either put up or shut up. He needed to come out and come back strong. He trusted Danny Diana and those Robinson bats. He trusted them, gave them momentum, and he shut down the Wildcats after that.
What I like about Robinson baseball is they have often been men among boys, and I like statements like that when they do say, put up or shut up. I know it's cliche, but those guys over at Robinson, sometimes, as I mentioned, they seem like men among boys. They seem like they've been primed for this sort of thing, coming up in a secondary school, being around older kids. Sometimes you grow up a little bit faster, and I love that aspect. I think those are often, I'll say it again, I think they play like men among boys. Right now, playing like younger boys than they actually are. I hate to say it, Herndon has struggled. This is a team that finished with a sub-500 record for the first time in Coach Al McCulloch's 15 years last year, and they look to be heading that way again, unfortunately. They got a 1-1 start to the season, and their only win thus far has been over a AA school in Parkview, a nearby neighbor of theirs in Loudoun County. So we'll see what Herndon's able to do in the later part of the season. But for now, we'll jump into the National District here on the Fairfax Sports Report. Who's sitting where in that pesky National District, John Marcario?
There you see Yorktown is at the top. They are 4-0 in district play, 4-2 overall. Wakefield sits second. They are 2-1 in district play, 2-3 overall. Little news out of Wakefield. George Johnson angered his head coach as he had decided to go on spring break instead of participating in the team's tournament. Coach was not happy with him about that one. Sitting in third is Washington and Lee. They are 2-1 in district play, 3-2 overall. Then you see Mount Vernon. They are 1-2 in district play, 1-5 overall. Edison is next. They are 1-2 in district play, 2-4 overall. They have suffered back-to-back losses. Falls Church is next. They are 1-3 in district play, 1-4 overall. They have a loss to Edison this year. Then you see Old Stewart. They are 0-2 in district play, 0-6 or 0-5 overall. And Loudoun Valley is lumped in the National District.
All right, and we're going to jump right into our Northern Region Top 10 Coaches Poll here on the Fairfax Sports Network. This is a poll that you can find every week here on this show and in the Connection newspapers. Madison, right up at the top. What a surprise. Ranked 9th in the country and number 1 in our coaches poll. They have so many Division I players on that team, too many to count. I think the tally right now is 8, if I'm correct. Not quite sure. Langley, though, not far behind, right there at the number 2 spot, a team that is at 7-1 overall right now. Lake Braddock, the top half, as you see, of teams that we have discussed here in our baseball report on the Fairfax Sports Report. Lake Braddock at number 3 and Chantilly at 4. Danny Diana and the Robinson Rams at number 5. The Oakton Cougars at 6, a team that I think will jump dramatically in that poll. They start slow, but they haven't this year. They've got 5 consecutive wins thus far. South County at number 7. The West Springfield Spartans at number 8, and that's what I was talking about earlier when we were talking about the Patriot District boys. West Springfield, I believe, having beat Lake Braddock, I don't think the coaches are necessarily giving them that respect they deserve for having beat Lake Braddock, and we'll see what the Spartans have to do about that. Westfield, an enigma right there at number 9. Not sure what to do with them, but they're always good. Got to keep them in the top 10. And Sam Plank's Stonebridge Bulldogs, I believe that is a respect vote from the rest of the coaches. I don't know if they're that good, but they're a team that always turns it on at the end of the season, and you got to keep them ranked in the top 10 at least for now. And speaking of Stonebridge, Sam Plank, Loudoun County, the Bulldogs, a team that, Paul, you are very familiar with. Every week we're going to start bringing the folks at home a new segment called the Loudoun Report. Paul, take it away.
All right, being the first week for the first Loudoun County Report, I'm glad to welcome everybody to the Loudoun Report, people watching in Loudoun County. Starting with baseball, Dominion won the first annual RE/MAX Gateway Spring Break Tournament, beating fellow Dulles District rival Parkview, and then beat Manassas Park in the championship game to claim the title. Now this win for Dominion should put them in the top of the district with Potomac Falls and Broad Run. And I'd add Parkview to that too. It's a four-way run for the Dulles District Baseball Championship with Dominion with brothers Chris and Jordan Taylor and pitcher Anthony DeMott. Now what Coach Jay Raines told me is pretty much everybody can pitch for Dominion. They have a very, very deep bullpen, and that helps them out in tournament-type situations. You'll see that in the district tournament, they have kids that can pitch for them. Moving on to soccer, defending AA state champion Potomac Falls got a scare against Loudoun County, tying Loudoun County 4-4. Now Potomac Falls is on a 30-game undefeated streak, like I mentioned, recently winning the AA state championship. Ben Biber scored the tying goal for the Potomac Falls Panthers in the final minute of the second overtime period when they were trailing 3-4. Now, Coach Grutter, after the game, they were not happy. He said they need to use this as a learning tool because they cannot underestimate any opponent, especially opponents in the Dulles District. Moving on to softball, Loudoun Valley, the Loudoun Valley softball team really showed that they are one of the top teams in the D.C. metro area by winning the Lake Braddock tournament. They beat top-ranked opponents, Westfield, number 5 ranked in the Washington Post rankings, and top-ranked Bishop O'Connell, number 1 in the Washington Post rankings, to win the Lake Braddock tournament. And that's it for your first annual Loudoun Report.
All right. The Loudoun Report will come to you every single week here on the Fairfax Sports Report. Paul Frummelt, our Loudoun reporter of the Connection newspapers, is going to be bringing you all the action from Loudoun as we are branching in to the Loudoun airwaves and site waves, if you will. But come on back and join us for more here on the Fairfax Sports Report. We're going to go to break. Come on back. Join us a little bit later for some more lacrosse action here on the Fairfax Sports Report. Welcome back to the Fairfax Sports Report. As promised, every week we're going to bring you a Fairfax Sports Network Spotlight Athlete of the Week. You can nominate your Athlete of the Week on the website. Go to www.fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. Every single week, out of the Connection newspapers, we will pick one of our Spotlight Athletes and highlight them on this broadcast. Last week, it was Danny Jones of Herndon signing with Randolph-Macon University to play basketball. This week, though, John Marcario, a special soccer Spotlight Athlete.
It's Jose Colcheo from Lake Braddock High School. He's a unique pick for this week. They had a game against Woodson. He'd missed the previous 3 games. In that game, he played 9 minutes. In those 9 minutes, it says he has 2 assists. He had 1 assist in that game. He was also on the field for the other goal. 2-2, the game ended in a tie. When he wasn't in the game, the Bruins did not get very many scoring opportunities. He's going to, from now on, wear a foot orthotics on his foot. They'll be very expensive, he says, but it's going to have to do. He's broken that foot 2 times in the past year, so he's a little cautious of it. But in that game against Woodson, the Bruins fell behind 1-0 early. When Jose was on the field, they were able to battle back. He had a beautiful assist to tie it. Freshman scored the goal. Then Lake Braddock proceeded to take the lead at 2-1. They gave up the game-tying goal in the 64th minute. Players were very distraught at the end of regulation. In overtime, the Bruins weren't able to get any real scoring chances. Woodson had one where they missed a goal by a couple of inches as it sailed wide. After the game, Woodson head coach Matt Levy was ecstatic. He said, "I told my athletic director going into the game, if we can get a tie, I'll be very happy with it." He was very pleased with the effort. He had several players missing due to various injuries, including Joe Fuentes, his star midfielder. Lake Braddock, on the other hand, very somber mood afterwards, had a long team meeting, were not pleased with it. They kind of felt like they just let one get away in that one.
Every single week, we're going to bring you a new Fairfax Sports Network Spotlight Athlete. You can send nominations to our website. If you go to our website, you can find that information at www.fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. Come on back and join us now for lacrosse action. Just after this break, we're going to bring you some hot lacrosse action here in the northern region. Come on back and join us here on the Fairfax Sports Report. Welcome back to the Fairfax Sports Report. I'm your host, BJ Kubarulis, alongside of Paul Frummelt and John Marcario. We are all of the Connection newspapers, the best high school coverage in the area, in my opinion.
No doubt.
No doubt. Guys, let's jump right into this Triple Edge Lacrosse Report, if you will. Triple Edge Lacrosse sponsoring the FSN Lacrosse Report. Let's jump into our top 10 rankings. We bring these to you every single week here in this segment of our Fairfax Sports Report, the Triple Edge Lacrosse Top 10. Paul Frummelt, Robinson, no surprise, right up at the top.
I will have a game report of Robinson and Westfield. You see Robinson there at number 1, no surprise, 160 points, definitely the best team in the region. Westfield right behind, gave them a scare in overtime. I'll talk about that later. They have 120 points. They were previously in third. Woodson, with Westfield moving up, drops down to third. They were previously in second. They have 114 points. You see Langley there with 100 points. They're in fourth. Oakton with 88 points in fifth. Yorktown 70 points. They're in sixth. They stay in sixth. We have a tie for seventh with Hayfield and Madison tied with 55 points. In Jefferson, not far behind, they have 50 points. In T.C. Williams, their first week in the poll, they have 16 points.
And our girls in the top 10 in this Northern Region Triple Edge Lacrosse Top 10 Coaches Poll here on the Fairfax Sports Network. Oakton, we're going to have Coach Gene Counts on the phone with us in just a couple of seconds. Oakton, no surprise, the returning state champion with 70 points to their name. They have been ranked number 1 all season long. John Marcario with Robinson not far behind.
Robinson 6th. They are 61 points. Last week they were second. We have a tie for third with Loudoun Valley and Yorktown. Then we have the Saxons of Langley there at 5th. Woodson right on up there. They are 6th with 30 points. West Springfield Spartans, they are 7th with 28 points. Moved down a little bit, 6th last week. Then you see the old Chantilly Chargers. They are sitting there at 8th, 23 points. Last week they are 9th. We have Annandale at 9, and welcome to the top 10 Stonebridge, as they were not ranked last week. One thing to note, a lot of these teams, similar to a lot of lacrosse schools, they are on break for the next week plus, so they have not played any games.
And speaking of a team that is on break, coming back from break right now on the road, joining us on her cell phone, Gene Counts, the coach of the Oakton Cougars. Coach, how you doing on your drive?
We're doing well, thank you.
Okay. Coach, you guys were in South Carolina. Tell us a little bit about what your tournament was like out there.
It wasn't really a tournament, as more of a playing opportunity just to get away with the team and kind of practice without distractions and whatnot. We did get to play round robin scrimmage with Madison, Herndon, and Bluffton High School from South Carolina, and then we played an official game with Madison yesterday.
All right, and that is a team that you know quite well. Coach, what is your connection with the Madison coach?
The head Madison coach is Amanda Counts, who was our assistant last year, but we happen to also be related. She's my sister-in-law, not my sister, my sister-in-law.
And it's great to see that rivalry getting back into action in Vienna, an area that is focused a lot on lacrosse. Their youth
Right.
programs often feed a lot of girls into your system. Coach, I got to ask you, though, the first official state title goes to the Oakton Cougars last year. What kind of pressure is that now coming into this season to perform at a top level?
I don't know. I don't really think about postseason pressure when we've only played one regular season game, so I kind of can't think that far ahead. I got to go game by game, but it's really fun to watch our team because we have everybody on our roster right now was with us for postseason except for one additional person that we had join the team, a senior. So it's not about pressure, but it's really about just watching them play together and kind of regain that chemistry that we had last year.
Now, Coach, you mentioned you only lost one player. Talk about some of the key players that you see for the team this year.
Talk about some of the players, the
Yes.
specific players. Well, we have our two seniors that were one was a midfield leader and one was our attacking leader, Victoria Cable. She was our first home, and then Katie Burkle was one of the midfield center/attack wing players, and then Ashley Kemner, our center/attack wing player also, who led in, I don't remember, but several categories.
Well, those are three familiar names, coaches, and Victoria Cable, Katie Burkle, and Ashley Kimmener, and you guys do bring back a lot of talent. Who is going to be the toughest game on your schedule, though, right now in this regular season?
Well, we started with Robinson, which was very difficult always. For the last, I'd say, 3 or 4 years, we've started with them, and with the weather, we had a couple of scrimmages canceled and whatnot, so that was difficult, but we passed that first test, and I think the next game we have is Westfield, so that's always going to be a challenge because they're very good, and they beat us 2 years ago in the district final, so it's always a rivalry. I'm not looking past any team, not one team in our district, so the district's very strong. But our senior night is Chantilly, and all the girls, have kind of talked about that already. So,
Coach, how do you keep your kids at kind of a level head? You won the title last year. You come in first game of the year, beat the team that we have ranked as the second best team in the entire area. How do you keep the kids focused to stay on the goal?
Well, it's not necessarily about who the competition is. It's within ourselves. We all know we can play to a certain potential, and if we're not playing to that potential, that's kind of how we test ourselves every day, by playing each other, playing. We do have a tough schedule outside of district play. We play O'Connell this week, and then next week we were fortunate enough to play St. Stephen's, St. Agnes, and then we finish our regular season with Holton Arms.
And Coach, you've got a schedule like that speaks volumes about your program's respectability, just being able to get those programs on your schedule. Talk a little bit about that, getting respect at the public school level. It's all about private school around here, but I think that is starting to change, is it not?
It's slowly starting to shift. We're starting to get some more consistency in our public school teams. But private schools, I'm just so fortunate to get to know some of them by doing just some of the other U.S. lacrosse activities throughout the year. So in order to establish a relationship with one of the coaches, we get to kind of talk about playing games, and it's kind of become a little bit of a tradition. We've played National Cathedral, we've played Stone Ridge in the last couple of years, and kind of seeing the coaches again, and we're somewhat friends when we meet up. So it's friendly but fierce competition.
Well, Coach, we're certainly friendly with you, and we appreciate you being friendly with us here on the Fairfax Sports Report. Thanks for coming on. We'll be talking to you soon. We'll be catching you on the lacrosse fields.
Okay, thanks for having me.
All right,
Coach.
safe
Thanks,
ride
Coach.
home, Coach. All right, now they are coming back, as we mentioned right now, from South Carolina. They kind of went over there just to get away and do some practicing, go on a road trip, team bonding type thing, and I respect that. I certainly like what Coach Counts has been able to do over at Oakton. That's a powerhouse program, guys. She talks it down a little bit. She talks a little bit about how it's not about what everyone else does. It's about what we do. I think that's very important in keeping focused the returning state champions.
One thing on both boys and the girls' side is this district, the Concord district and the northern region has become so strong. You mentioned getting some of that private school respect. Is that how is Robinson on the boys' side, how is Oakton on the girls' side going to repeat with with Westfield, with the Oaktons, with the Robinsons on the girls' side? It's a tough northern region, and we're seeing that both Robinson the boys and Oakton the girls are starting out very well.
Well, you talk about some of these usual suspects and some of these teams that are usually ranked right up at the top. And speaking of rankings, let's show the folks at home exactly who sits where in our Northern Region top 10. Let's jump right into those rankings. Triple Edge Lacrosse's coaches poll. Right up at the top, John Marcario Robinson and Matt Kugler, the All-American attackmen at 160 points this week. They're at number 1. They've been there throughout the entire season. Westfield jumping up from number 3. They are now ranked 2nd. They had a signature win of their own. Woodson at number 3. That's a team that has dramatically jumped from the beginning of the season. They lost Brandon Butler, who went to Army. He's doing quite well there, guys. I have a feeling we'll be talking a lot about Brandon Butler in the coming weeks. But Woodson right there at number 3. Langley at number 4. The Saxons, they lose Robbie McClay to graduation, an All-American in his own right, and they are still right there with Earl Brewer in his 12th season with the Saxons at number 4. Tony Gray and the Oakton Cougars are at the 5th spot, and that is a program you always got to keep an eye on. Yorktown making a name for itself this year, as is Hayfield. They are tied with Madison. Nate Dewey, we got a chance to see them earlier in the season, and Dewey and the Warhawks trying to state a case for themselves this year. Jefferson not far behind, and the Titans of T.C. Williams, they jump into our lacrosse poll for the first time in this Triple Edge lacrosse poll season here on the Fairfax Sports Report. Let's show them at home. Where are the girls of the Northern Region? Coach Gene Counts just came on with us, told us all about those Oakton Cougars. They've been ranked number 1 all season, Paul Frumbelt.
Well, and you're looking at Oakton, right below them is those Robinson Rams with 61 points, previously ranked 2nd, the same 1-2 punch as last week. You see Loudoun Valley and Yorktown both tied at 3rd with 51 points. Previously, Loudoun Valley was at 7th. They had a big jump for Loudoun Valley. Langley at number 5 with 41 points. They were previously 4th. You see the Woodson Cavaliers and West Springfield Spartans 30 points and 28 points respectively. Chantilly there with 23 points. They were previously ranked number 9th. Annandale at 9th, and then Stonebridge joining the top 10 with 8 points.
John, going to come to you briefly about a little bit of soccer. You said you had a little soccer action and report for us. Talk a little bit about some of that soccer action that you did mention.
Soccer, so far, South County, they are off to a little bit of a rough start. They started out 2-2. Watch out for them. West Springfield, same way, a little rough start at the beginning. But soccer so far, I mean, it's starting to kick into high gear. A lot of these teams have a solid 10 to 14 days off between when they played their last game towards the end of last month and when they start their next game towards this month. Very excited to get into district play.
And Paul Frummel, you've got a little soccer news of your own.
Actually, it's a lacrosse news.
Oh, lacrosse news.
I have the Westfield Robinson story that I was able to get to. Definitely, you see Westfield getting a lot of respect in that coach's poll. It's because they played Robinson, the defending champions, to a tie, and they had to go into overtime, sudden death overtime, where Robinson was able to come back to win. Kenny Talbot for Westfield scored 4 goals, and they were leading 10-9 going into the fourth quarter. For Robinson, Tyler Zink, one of the 1-2 punch with Matt Kugler, scored 4 goals, and Chase Walton, a sophomore, scored the winning goal for Robinson. Coach Fixero said he was very impressed with how his younger players are coming out, and he mentioned Matt Kugler, who scored the tying goal to send it into overtime. Kugler, with only 1 goal, it's kind of unrealistic to think that he has to score 5 goals a night. One thing Coach Fitzgerald told me was Matt Kugler's legacy that he wants off the field is to bring those younger kids up. Show them how to play the game, show them how to play at the Robinson level, and you're seeing that with Chase Walton, a sophomore, getting that winning goal.
All right, so that is our Triple Edge lacrosse report. Threw a little soccer in there for you folks at home. We're going to bring you all the spring sports every week here on the Fairfax Sports Report. Baseball, softball, soccer, lacrosse, anything and everything you can ask for. Our local experts here on the panel with me, and our coaches will be joining us every single week, as well as this new segment that we're going to be giving you every single week. John Marcario of the Connection newspapers will be doing a segment called Marcario's Madness, and this kind of spurs from some disagreements and arguments that we have in the office. We sit a little closer than we do on this show, hard to believe, in our office at work. We often argue about things, and John's madness, although it is crazy and madness, it often has a little rhyme or reason to it. So every week, John's going to come and share a little bit of that madness with the folks at home. John, take it away for your Marcario's Madness.
Well, before the NCAA tournament started, experts across the country were complaining that mid-majors were getting too much respect. Despite the shock of George Mason making the Final Four last season and several mid-majors making the Sweet 16, these so-called experts still said average to below average BCS schools deserve bids over they did. On Selection Sunday, the committee made a strong statement handing out a mere 5 bids to mid-majors, the lowest in years. Over the past few weeks, the majors have technically advanced. Not technically, they have advanced, with the exception of Duke and Notre Dame, who sustained serious upsets. In the Final Four, there were 2 number 1 seeds and 2 number 2 seeds. Experts said this was a great thing for college basketball. After the buzzer sounded on Monday, and Florida was celebrating its 2nd consecutive national championship, the question started to whisper: what college basketball players would stay and which would leave for the NBA draft? During this year, freshmen Greg Oden of Ohio State and Kevin Durant of Texas have created much national attention due to their play. Both players are projected to go 1-2 in the upcoming NBA draft if they decide to leave. Florida, the 2-time defending national champion, also has several players on their roster that are contemplating going to the NBA. As big-name programs fear the loss of key players, these so-called mid-majors sit quietly, waiting. George Mason wasn't in the postseason this year, but they could make a run next year. Why? They returned several players. They lose 2 bench players from this year. That is similar to several mid-majors across the country. Last year, Mason's Final Four team featured a group that included 3 senior starters. Next year's team could have 5. In this year's NCAA tournament, Butler and Southern Illinois, 2 Sweet 16 teams, had 4 seniors that played prominent minutes. Winthrop, who advanced to the round of 32, also had 3 seniors on their team. These seniors are not bench players like some of the other BCS schools, but rather they're key components or superstars of each individual team. After the NCAA tournament, during the NCAA tournament, the NCAA is quick to call these kids student athletes, but they seem to push aside the mid-majors. After the college basketball season ends and the big-name programs fear which players they might lose, the mid-majors are thinking one thing. The Kevin Durant's and Greg Odens could be contemplating which NBA agent to sign with, but the Fowler and Campbells of the world are figuring out which summer school classes they're going to take.
Spectacular, John. Well done. Every week, Marcario's Madness will be brought to you here on the Fairfax Sports Report. If you have ideas or issues that you'd like to see John tackle, go to fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. You can email John there. On our website, what do you want to see on the Madness? Let John know. We'll bring it to you weekly here on the Fairfax Sports Report. Let's thank the folks that make this show possible. Of course, we're talking about our wonderful underwriters, the folks that make this Fairfax Sports Report happen every week, and they also make things like this happen. The FSN Game of the Week. This week on demand, Jefferson at Langley. That was taped at the end of March 30th. Had to do a little math there. Boys lacrosse action. That's going to be replay on Channel 10. I had your call. Robinson at Woodson on the 23rd. That came right down to the wire, guys. That was an incredible game. Matt Kugler having a great game there for the Rams, and Robbie Robertson over from the Cavaliers. You'll hear that name a bunch. We're on the web at www.fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. You can get a lot of bios and graphics and pictures, and you can email John what you want to hear him rant about in his Marcario's Madness. You can also nominate folks for Athlete of the Week here on the Fairfax Sports Report, and just give us your thoughts and comments. Our thoughts and comments to CCI Screen Printing. Our thoughts to them. Thanks, CCI, for being such a stellar teammate at 703-978-0257 for all your screen printing needs. Quality Care Ford Service Center. They service all makes and models here in Fairfax at 703-383-6299. Triple Edge Lacrosse. That's a special new teammate of ours. You can see their action every week here on the Fairfax Sports Report. You can find them at tripleedgelax.com. Every week we'll bring you a top 10 in our Triple Edge Lacrosse Report, guys. And before we get going here on the Fairfax Sports Report, I do this every show. Have your regional baseball contenders changed at all? I know mine haven't.
Still Madison for me.
I'm going to throw in Fairfax as a deep, deep sleeper.
All right, watch out for the Lake Braddocks of the world, and watch out for the Oaktons of the world, guys. I love Madison. I think they do good things, but in the postseason, it comes down to grit, and I know that Jason Farley and the Warhawk boys have that. I'd like to just see them do it. All right, that's a little challenge to you Warhawks. I'll come to see you guys out there on the diamonds. Join us every week here on the Fairfax Sports Network's presentation of the Fairfax Sports Report.